Snow melts into gray slush along a ruined road in western Germany. It is March 1945. A young woman stands under guard. Her coat is thin. Her hands shake. She clutches a bundle wrapped in a faded blanket. Inside it, a baby cries. The sound is weak. The woman has not eaten properly in days. Neither has the child. American soldiers move past her. Their boots splash through water mixed with ash. One of them stops. He looks at the baby. He reaches into his pack. He pulls out a metal can, powdered milk. He kneels. Another soldier finds a canteen cup. They mix the milk with water warmed over a small stove. The woman watches. Her eyes widen. When the baby drinks, the crying slows. Her shoulders collapse. She begins to cry, not loudly, just quietly. Around them, the war continues. But for a moment, it pauses. Germany, in early 1945, is collapsing. The Third Reich is nearing its end. On January 12th, the Soviet Red Army launches the Vistula-Oder offensive in the east. In the west, Allied forces prepare to cross the Rhine. Cities are shattered by years of bombing. Transportation networks are broken. Food supplies are scarce. Millions of civilians are displaced. Women, children, and elderly people flee advancing armies. Others remain in ruins, waiting. The German government still demands resistance, but its control is fading fast. The Wehrmacht is exhausted. Fuel is nearly gone. Ammunition is rationed. New recruits include teenagers and old men. Allied forces advance methodically. American armies push through Belgium and Luxembourg into the Rhineland. By February, Cologne falls. By March, U.S. forces seize the Ludendorff Bridge at Remagen, crossing the Rhine earlier than planned. This accelerates the collapse. German civilians are caught in between. Many are taken as displaced persons or temporary prisoners for security reasons. They are searched, questioned, and moved away from combat zones. Women with children are common among them. Allied soldiers encounter scenes they did not expect. Starving families, empty villages, children wearing adult coats. The U.S. Army has strict rules on dealing with civilians. Soldiers are ordered to treat them humanely. Supplies are limited, but emergency rations exist. Powdered milk, chocolate, canned meat, these are meant for soldiers, but commanders allow discretion, especially with children. The war in Europe has become total, but its end is close, and the human cost is everywhere. The woman is not a soldier. She is classified as a civilian internee. American units often detain civilians temporarily to prevent sabotage or intelligence leaks. In combat zones, this is routine. The woman has fled from the east. Her husband is missing, possibly dead, possibly a prisoner. She does not know. She carries her child through snow and rubble. She sleeps in barns, sometimes in ditches. German supply systems have collapsed. Rations no longer arrive. Milk is almost impossible to find. Infants suffer the most. Diarrhea, malnutrition, dehydration. Allied medical reports from 1945 note thousands of civilian children in critical condition. American soldiers see this firsthand. Many are fathers themselves. Some are barely older than the woman. When they stop to help, it is not part of a grand plan. It is instinct. One soldier recalls later that the baby looked like his daughter back home. The woman does not speak English. The soldiers do not speak German. Words are unnecessary. The act is simple. Milk, warmth, time. Her crying is not just relief. It is shock. She expected cruelty. German propaganda warned her of it. Instead, she sees care for her child, not for ideology. The moment stays with her. It stays with them. Tactically, the area is unstable. Small German units still operate. Snipers remain a threat. Civilians can be used as cover by retreating soldiers. American units must move fast. They cannot linger, yet pauses happen. Short ones, a checkpoint forms. The woman is searched. No weapons, no documents of concern. She is exhausted. Regulations allow the provision of emergency aid, especially to children. Field manuals emphasize discipline but also humanity. The U.S. Army Medical Department trains soldiers in basic first aid. Medics are stretched thin. Hospitals overflow with casualties from the Ardennes and the push into Germany. Civilian aid is not the priority, but it is not forbidden. Tactical commanders balance risk and compassion. A hungry child poses no threat. The soldiers know this. They also know the war is almost over. Morale is high but tempered. Many have seen too much. Helping a baby does not weaken discipline, it strengthens resolve. The unit moves on soon after. The woman is transferred to a collection point. The soldiers do not learn her name, she does not learn theirs, but the exchange leaves an imprint. The technology of war surrounds the moment. Tanks idle nearby, M for Shermans coated in mud. Radios crackle with orders. Trucks haul fuel and ammunition. Above, Allied aircraft dominate the sky. P-47 Thunderbolts and P-51 Mustangs patrol freely. German air power is nearly gone. The contrast is sharp. Machines built for destruction sit beside a child saved by milk powder. The same supply chain that feeds armies also feeds civilians. Powdered milk is an industrial product developed to sustain troops across oceans. It now sustains an enemy child. This reflects the scale of the conflict. Total war creates total dependency. Technology amplifies destruction, but also relief. American logistics are unmatched. Millions of tons of supplies flow into Europe. By late 1944, the U.S. Army is the most mechanized force in history. This allows acts like this to occur without weakening the front. One can of milk does not change the war, but it changes a life. It shows how material superiority can enable mercy. From the German perspective, the collapse is terrifying. Civilians are told to fear the Allies. Stories of atrocities circulate, some real, many exaggerated. The woman expects the worst. She has seen Soviet troops in the East or heard of them. She does not know how Americans will behave. When they stop to help, it disrupts her understanding. It does not erase loss. Her home is gone. Her future is uncertain. But it complicates the narrative she has been fed. Many Germans experienced this in 1945. Allied occupation brings order. Food, kitchens open. Medical care resumes, not immediately, not everywhere, but gradually. For civilians, the end of the war is not a single day. It is a transition from fear to exhaustion to survival. Encounters like this become stories told later, not to glorify but to explain. The turning point comes weeks later. April 1945, American forces encircle the Ruhr. Over 300,000 German troops are trapped. They surrender. Hitler remains in Berlin. On April 30th, he commits suicide. On May 7th, Germany signs unconditional surrender. The war in Europe ends on May 8th. For civilians, this means occupation. The woman and her child are released from temporary detention. Displaced persons camps expand. The Allies begin feeding millions. The United States Army alone feeds over 20 million people per day in occupied. Germany, by mid-1945, infant mortality remains high but begins to drop. Milk distribution becomes a priority. The memory of that moment stays vivid. She later tells it to aid workers. To her child years later, not as a story of heroes, but of survival. For the soldiers, the war ends. They go home. Some carry guilt, some carry pride. Some carry small memories. A baby, a cup, a cry turning quiet. The aftermath reshapes Europe. Germany is divided, cities are rebuilt. The Marshall Plan follows in 1947. Food security becomes central to recovery. Images of starving civilians influence policy. The line between enemy and human blurs. War crimes are prosecuted. So are acts of aid remembered quietly. This moment does not appear in official reports. It appears in letters, diaries, oral histories. It reflects a broader truth. Even in total war, individual choices matter. They do not change outcomes, but they shape meaning. The woman survives. The child grows up in a changed country. The soldiers age. History records battles and treaties. But it also lives in moments like this. Small, real, human. What this event teaches is not sentimental. It is practical. War dehumanizes by design. It requires it, but it never fully succeeds. Systems create violence. Individuals still choose. Military discipline does not eliminate empathy. It channels it. The end of the Second World War in Europe was not only a military victory, it was a humanitarian challenge. Feeding former enemies became as important as defeating them. The milk given to that child represents the shift from destruction to responsibility. It shows that power carries obligation, not because of kindness alone, but because stability depends on it. This lesson shapes post-war Europe, and it remains relevant. War ends. Civilians remain. What happens next matters just as much.